Welcome to On the Hill podcast.
All right, and we're back.
Back on the hill.
Back on the hill with another special guest.
Part two.
Part two.
Yep.
We should have looked up what number he was. I meant to do that.
Yeah, I can look it up. It was early on, though.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I was like, number 2, number 3.
Yep.
Yeah, so we had you on, and the first time we kind of went through like a story of your life, and at the beginning where you grew up, elementary school, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But today we're going to kind of narrow the scope.
Yeah, focus on a couple of topics and
so
really dig in.
Yeah, we're going to dig in. So Dr. Greenberg started a group here locally for police officers only, for AA, right?
It's called a doubly closed meeting.
Doubly closed meeting.
Doubly closed. It's doubly closed. And it's first, you have to have a problem with alcohol.
Right.
And second, you have to be a sworn or retired sworn officer.
Yep.
And those are the requirements to get into this group. Otherwise, it is closed.
Yeah, and because most AA meetings are open to everybody, but we'll get into why you started the group and all that. But since we've been in it, the topics have come up among the members. We all know officers who have committed suicide, obviously, and then we also know there are a lot of officers who suffer from substance abuse.
Yes.
Whether it be alcohol or any other drugs, either illegal or prescribed. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and that's why we wanted to have you on, was to talk about the group, talk about what role alcohol or drugs play in active or retired police officers, and what role, because we talk about the stress and all that involved, but what role, if any, can religion play in like the healing process? So
I think it's a bold topic. It's a bold topic, and I think that it absolutely merits us digging into it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's such a tender topic for most people, but I feel like it needs to be expressed more, and it needs to be more open to not just opinions, but we were talking about earlier having people have options for different psychologists and doctors, and it's hard to, it's scary to get into, but it's also it's a little difficult to find the right person. So.
I think so, and I think once you start talking about spiritual issues, there's a saying that spiritual things are spiritually discerned, and I had the privilege of having some really good mentors. One of those mentors was a gentleman by the name of Hector Betancourt, and another one was a guy by the name of Todd Burley, Dr. Todd Burley, who was the head of the Gestalt Institute at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, UCLA.
Wow.
Both of these guys, very, very smart guys, very insightful. But I remember going to a meeting where they were talking to a group of religious folks, spiritual people, about psychology. And one of the things that they said was very interesting. They said that there are levels of knowledge where there's truth. Like, for instance, there's truth at the nuclear physics level. There's truth there, and you can study it, and you can replicate studies, et cetera. There is truth at the neurochemical level. There is truth at the biological level. Truth at the social psychological level, truth at the psychological level, truth at the philosophical level, truth at the theological level. There's this pyramid of truths.
Right.
And you can study things and find truth at each one of these levels, and you can create scientific studies to study those things and find out knowledge and replicate that. And the thing about it is if a problem originates at one of these levels, you don't try and solve it at a different level. You try and solve it at the level where it exists. If you have a broken bone, that's a physiological issue. And we know a lot about broken bones and how they set and how they heal. There's truth there. We don't try and solve that at a philosophical level.
Right.
We don't try to solve it at a social psychological level. I don't give you aspirin as if that will cure your bone. So I don't try and solve it at that level. I solve it at the level that it exists. And there are some problems that people face that are spiritual.
No, I agree with that.
And I don't solve them at the psychological level. And I don't solve them at the chemical level. I can't solve your spiritual problem with Thorazine.
No.
You see? And so bringing up the topic, people get confused because they oftentimes see problems and relate them to spiritual issues, religious issues. And then they get confused because they're like, well, that really doesn't match up the level of the concern with the level of the way that we're talking about solutions. And so the things that you asked me to come and talk about today, the things like alcoholism, addiction, things like stress, things like suicide, they have certain levels of origin. And I'd like to talk with you about those a little bit, perhaps, and then we can talk about how maybe there is some help at some of these levels. So that's what I'd like to talk about, if that's cool with you.
And why do you think it's harder to stay on the religious level when you're trying to find stuff? I mean, if you go to a doctor,
right,
and you don't have a background in medical, you're not a nurse,
right,
you're going to listen to the doctor and you're just going to, for the most part, believe what he's saying or she's saying,
exactly,
and just accept what's wrong and what to do.
Yes.
But if you talk to a non-Christian or someone who may be struggling with faith,
right,
they immediately want to battle it,
right,
or find a reason to not believe. Or
that's a good point,
right? Yeah,
and then try to reach those other levels to say this isn't real, this isn't
right,
when they really don't know.
Right. Well, there are people, and I think, Eric, I think that this is this is something that we whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Jew, what have you, and that is, I think that one of the tenets of your religion is to have respect for all people, and so I can respect a person's. They can have a right to not believe. They can choose not to believe. I don't have any faith in that. And I tell you, I teach at a university, and there are people there who are atheists. They're so people in biology, they're atheists. They believe that that we evolved over billions of years, and that we came out of the primordial sludge, and that ultimately we developed. And the statisticians will tell you that the chance of a single cell originating randomly is the same chance of a tornado going through a random junkyard and assembling down to a full tank of gas a Boeing 747.
Wow. That's yeah.
I mean, and I can't get behind that. And so I think it takes much more faith to believe that. I think it's nonsense. And respectfully, I think it's nonsense. But I always shake the hand of that atheist and tell them how much I admire their faith. Because they have to have more faith than I do to believe that. Then that this world, which has so much organization to it, is from some designed by some organized being that designed it. That to me, is much more plausible as a scientist than the alternative to that. And again, I respectfully, I respect other people's opinions on this, but that's my opinion. And then my own religious experience itself has informed my opinion more fully, and what I've seen in people, and how I've seen lives that were transformed by the spiritual component,
no doubt,
changed. I will say this, it's been my experience in my work as a clinical psychologist, as an agent of change. That's my role, to be an agent of change.
Right.
That there are two things, and two things only, that motivate people to change. I might have mentioned this on our last podcast. And the two things that change human beings, one of them is inspiration. That changes human beings. And the other is desperation.
No, I agree, yeah.
And those are the only two things in my experience that change people. And I can say with great certainty that at least in my experience, I have found nothing that is as inspirational as a God who would die for you.
Yeah, that's it.
There's nothing that's more transformational than that and life-changing. And again, it goes back to inspiration or desperation. Mm-hmm. And now, regarding the topic of substance abuse,
right?
And I think with law enforcement, with firefighters as well, probably the most insidious of all that is alcohol.
Definitely.
And don't get me wrong. I've known cops who were on pain pills and who were abusing them, had gotten addicted to them. And I'll tell you guys a funny story. For years, cops would come and sit in my office, and and we'd spend the first 30 minutes talking about the belt, the utility belt. And they'd be talking about this damn belt, this thing jagging in my side, and I'm always sitting sideways in my car, and I got to cock myself just a little bit, but my back is killing me. And I have to be honest, and I apologize to all my cop friends out there who are listening. I apologize. I always thought, man, what a wuss, man. This is a belt. You got bigger problems than that, buddy. There are people out there who will kill you, and you're talking about this belt. I couldn't get my mind around that. And then I went through the academy, and I went out on the road, and I had that damn belt on. And I'm like, this damn belt, this thing's killing me, man.
Yeah, it's like a pebble in your shoe.
It is. And what happens is over the course of 10 years, 15 years of sitting in that car and just kicking your hip just a little bit to the left, it causes problems to the back and damage. And then these guys they get in a lot of pain. And there's a lot of docs out there who will quickly write you a script for that. Yeah. And then they get addicted to that. But that's not the thing that mostly gets cops. Yeah. Mostly what gets cops is alcohol, because it is an accepted social grease that that people use, and I can tell you, believe it or not, I get invited to the occasional law enforcement party,
choir practice.
And I've never been to but one meeting, one gathering for cops. Only one of them have I been to where there was not alcohol served, and that was at a Baptist church, and
weren't many cops there.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just kidding. No, it was cops. No, it was a bunch of cops. But what was going on was they were all going into the rectory and getting a glass of something, and they're going out to so and so's car, who was retired, who had a handle in his vehicle. They were all going to talk to him, and I'm like, "Do you know him?" And it's like, "No, but he's out there." And they went out to get that. And I told a Presbyterian minister friend who is one of the chaplains about this, and he said, "Well, that's the thing about them Baptists, man." He said, "Wherever you find 4 of them, man, you find a 5th."
There you go. Yeah. I mean,
it's a common tool.
Yeah, and it's part of the culture. It's like you wouldn't tell somebody. We'll get into this. Like a cop's not gonna tell another cop, "Hey, I'm on an antidepressant or whatever."
Yeah, right.
But hey, let's just get a beer or whatever.
Right.
And that's just part of the. I mean, I know that as a culture when I came in. I mean, I drank before I became a cop, but once I got in, that's what we did.
Right.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
No. And the truth of the matter is police officers are, they're 30% more likely to develop an alcohol-related issue than the common, person out there who's not in law enforcement. It's 30% more likely. They said it's 25 to 30% more likely to develop a drinking problem, and some of that has to do with the stress of the job. Like when you were working the road, when you came home, how long did it take you to kind of like become normal Eric instead of cop Eric?
Yeah, it took time. And so, the easiest transfer over was drink a beer.
Pop the top on one. And
I used to drink a deuce on the way home, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you probably weren't even born then, but yeah, I mean, that was part of the.
Right.
I didn't start off with that, but yeah, first thing you want to do is get your cold beer, sit on the chair, and relax.
Yeah.
Get that gear off.
Right.
Get some comfy clothes on and knock down a cold one, man.
Right.
And boots off and
that sounds good right now, but I mean,
yeah.
but
But see, what happens is you're, even after years of sobriety, Eric,
21 years.
yeah, 21 years of sobriety. Even after that, your body still actually remembers.
Oh, I felt as I described it.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. And that's the thing. The body remembers. That's one of the reasons. It is crazy. Yeah. But it's what happens is it is so drilled into your system, that impact of that drink on you, and how hungry you were for that, how desirous you were for that, that your body remembers that, and it still longs for it.
Oh, it did right then.
It did. It still longs for it. And that's why a person can drink for 20 years and be up to, a fifth a day, and they can quit for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And when they pick it back up, they'll go back to a fifth a day immediately.
Man.
The body remembers
just
all
what it
of
was.
that. Right,
Yeah.
exactly where it was. They'll start right back where they were.
That's crazy.
It is.
Well, it's wild because you think about alcohol, and you have a long night, and you wake up hungover and throwing up, and you're like, man, I'm never drinking again.
Right.
And then 2 days later, or the next weekend,
Go figure that.
you do the same thing. And I was thinking about it the other day. I had, I'm not going to say it. Well, it was a pizza place.
Okay, yeah.
And the last time we had it, I got food poisoning, and I have not had it since.
Right.
I can't even think about.
Right.
Because it has a unique flavor, and I was like, I
Right.
threw it up for 8 hours. So I was like, I don't want to
Right.
ever eat that pizza again.
But you know
But
what
when you
that's-
throw up alcohol,
Right. Why
you're
is
right
that?
back at
Yeah,
it.
what's the
Why-
difference?
Like, what's the
Why?
difference?
I'm going to tell you why. Because, and that's a very, very astute observation. What you're describing is, if you've ever gone and eaten, Chinese food and gotten sick, and you couldn't eat it for a year after that, it's called single event learning. And when your system retches following eating something, it remembers the composition of that, whether it's the taste of tomato sauce or what have you, and it causes you to go be able to, kick the bile up right there. But the question is if the system is actually designed to do that, so that you don't go and eat something poison or toxic again, why is it that we don't do that with alcohol?
Because it is poison.
It is poison. And so what happens is we don't do it with alcohol because there's another force in alcohol too, which is dumb down our cells, and is actually there's a drive for it. There's a hunger for it. And listen, when you're in high school and you spend the evening, for all of our listeners, throwing up that Mad Dog 2020.
Done that before.
and
They still sell that shit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. When you're throwing up Mad Dog 2020 and you're painting the porcelain all simultaneously, you're thinking, I'll never do this again. And then what happens is you quickly forget that because of the benefit, the so-called benefit of it, and that is you've also attached drinking with the fun you had.
Yep.
And the truth of the matter is in your case you attached the drinking with the relaxation you had.
Yeah.
And so, your body doesn't forget that. I was talking with an officer today in my office about that, and I said to him, I said, you remember things like, for instance, if I drove around Petersburg with you, you'd immediately say, "Yep, this intersection there's a two car double fatality. That house over there had a guy in it who had been dead for 5 days. We could smell him from the road." And we'd keep driving, and you'd say, "Oh, but there was a shooting right here. I remember the young man holding my hand while he died." And we just keep driving around the city, and you tell me event after event after event. Now there are some events that you can't remember right now. There's so many events in your history.
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
memories, but on a day where the temperature is about 82 degrees and you can smell honeysuckle at that part of the road and the sun is in the sky at exactly the right level, that's the exact setting for one bad incident and all of a sudden the incident will come flooding back on you as you go through that intersection because all of those factors are kicking the memory out. We call those retrieval cues. And because alcohol has such a profound impact on your body. It has all sorts of retrieval cues to kick out ideas of the feelings, the anticipations of the feelings. And you dealt with people who were addicted to heroin on the street.
Yeah.
And if you ever talk with these people who are addicted to heroin, you start talking about pulling out that spoon and cooking that stuff up. Watch what they do. They'll reach over and rub that vein. and you know what? Some of those guys, some of those gals who are so addicted, they will dry stick themselves. They'll take a needle and they'll just stick it in their vein because the brain is so prepared, the body is so prepared that needle prick itself causes the body to release certain endorphins in anticipation of the high. And that's they dry stick just to let the body do what it was anticipating because the body remembers.
That's crazy.
The body remembers. And so, those are all things that contribute to addiction. And then, of course, they contribute to it, and then it's being sustained. So there's a very challenging thing to beat. Which, go ahead.
Oh, I was just talking about the physical side of sticking yourself, or smokers trying to get off of cigarettes will vape, or they have the vape or smokeless vapes, and is non-alcoholic beer something? Is it a crutch, or is it more of a?
Well, I think for some people it can be a crutch, and I think for some people it can be an aid. And so, I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all in some of that stuff. But I talked with a guy who, he drank beer alcoholically, and I said to him, well, why do you drink? And he said, I like the taste. And I said, well, if you like the taste, why don't you drink non-alcoholic beer? And he said, it doesn't taste the same. So I tricked him, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a non-alcoholic beer and I'm going to give you an alcoholic beer. And I want you to tell me which one tastes better and see if you can tell. And the truth of the matter is I lied. I actually poured the non-alcoholic beer in both glasses. And he insisted that one of them tasted better. And so it wasn't the taste that he was looking for. It was the impact of the alcohol on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never fell for that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I quit drinking, the prevalence of the availability of non-alcoholic beers, like now it's pretty. But back then it had some terrible tasting.
Well, that's what I was asking. I mean, every company's coming out with one now.
Yeah. I mean, some of them are better than others, but I mean, I don't mind drinking them, but without the alcohol. And I mean, I just didn't get into it. Now, some of the non-alcoholic drinks are good, like some of the new IPAs or something that have a different taste to it. But But the regular beer, I tried it, but I just I'm just done with this.
Yeah,
no need. I mean, I didn't fool I didn't enjoy the taste. I mean, I didn't mind a cold beer. It certainly tasted good, on a hot day or something. But I didn't go for that.
Right. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is within the profession, within the emergency service world, particularly with cops, one of the primary benefits of having a cold beer or, having a glass of, bourbon on ice, whatever it is, that it does calm you down. It gets you from this point of anxiety, of alertness, of being at 8 on the 1 to 10 scale, back down to a more comfortable 4.
Yeah.
And the truth is when you go to work, especially today, man, it's just getting worse and worse out there. You got to be at 8 all the time because it's a lot shorter from 8 to 10 than it is from 5 to 10. And so when you're programming your system to be on hypervigilant, et cetera, it only makes sense. What can I do to quickly unwind? And then you start to rationalize and you say things like, well, it's not fair for my wife for me to have to go into the man cave for 2 hours to unwind. I'll just have a couple of these and I'm going to be more agreeable to everybody. And I'm going to be, I'm going to be more available. And you start rationalizing that stuff. And then, next thing you know, you have a couple to feel better. Yeah. And then, and then a couple more after that. And then you rationalize it. Well, it's been a time and, and and don't I deserve this?
Yeah.
Everybody does it. And I know somebody who drinks a case of beer a day. So me having 6 to 12 of them is not like crazy. And I'm a big guy, so I can handle that. It's a lot of rationalization that happens.
Yeah.
And then, the next thing you're saying these words, I need a drink.
Mm-hmm.
And you really do mean that. You know what? I need a
and
beer.
you really need it.
Yeah, and you really need it. And you really need it. And I think, I told my wife that I've said this before. She didn't like me saying this. She said it sounds a certain way, but it's true, and that is, I'm not. Look, if you want to have a beer, have a beer. But I don't support an industry that has destroyed the lives of so many people I care about.
No doubt. Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't support the industry. I think that you have to be careful when you make this a lifestyle. When you say, we're all going to have drinks. And when I teach at the academy, I say, when I talk about this topic, I say, hey, how many of you would say to your colleagues, hey, I'm going to have a big party at my house. Y'all come on over. There's no alcohol. How many of you would say that? And they're like, no. And I said, well, let's reverse it. What if I said that to you? Would you want to come to my party? And if you wouldn't want to come to my party, why are you there? I'm there. I'm inviting you to my party.
Yeah.
Are you there to be with me? Are you there to be drinking? Or are you there to have a good time and that somehow that you're not going to have that good time if we don't have some of this social lubricant that we know as alcohol?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
So connected.
It is.
Well, I think it's, on purpose too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, advertising and all that.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of people, and it wasn't really necessarily for me, but, it wasn't in my case, but a lot of people, let me say it two ways. One, some people do need alcohol to relax. Forget being a cop. Yeah. Like they just feel they're able to relax a little bit and open up and, interact with people. Some people have social anxiety and all that.
But so you said it right though. And that is, some people need that. And see, the reason why they need it is because that's the thing that they've always used. So because it works, and alcohol does work. Yeah. It works. Wine is fine, but liquor is quicker. Yeah. It works. The problem is because it works, they've never had to practice using other methods to achieve the same outcome.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I had to learn to do that. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need it, but to interact with people, I've not really ever been shy like that. But once I quit drinking, I had to reinvent myself and how to interact with people in social events. Because in the other time, I was drinking.
Right.
And then I don't want to take away from what you're trying to go over, but the other part of it is, then you find out that a lot of the people you hung out with you were drinking buddies. You weren't necessarily friends.
Right. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to discover. And it's hard because in order to give up drinking, if it's causing you problems, to give that up, you feel like you're going to have to give up friends. And when you go to AA, what do they teach you? They teach you people, places, and things. Yeah. Those are the three components that keep you drinking: people, places, and things.
No doubt.
And so there are some people that you will have to give up. If those people are contributing to the detriment of your health by continuing you drinking, the question is are they really your friends?
No doubt.
I remember being out one night. I borrowed my parents' vehicle and I went out to to a party, and I got into a terrible fight with this Marine, and it was a really nasty fight. And but I called my dad because his car got damaged in the melee, and ruined the relationship with the girl that I was out with too at the time, which in the long run was good. But I remember calling my dad, and he said, "Well, what are you doing out at 3 a.m?" I said, "I was out with friends." And I remember him saying to me, "You don't have friends at 3 o'clock in the morning." And it was silly to me at the time. Of course, I got friends. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What does time have to do with it? But anybody who's out with you at 3 in the morning, where trouble happens, where problems happen, are they really your friend if they're helping you get into that trouble?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but it definitely is a transition.
It is.
So the without mentioning names, but so when the cops come to you and I guess you allow time for them to get to know you and all that, and but when I'm sure they lie about the amount they drink and all that at first, but if they ever get to that point where they want to be honest with you, how resistant are they to want to go to a meeting or?
Well, I tell you, I talked with a guy he was an FBI agent, retired FBI agent. This guy probably was 140 pounds soaking wet. And he'd drink a handle in an evening.
Wow.
Until he got sober. And he set out, he used to come out and do trainings when I was doing trainings for the California Peer Support Association. And he would come out and cover substance abuse section of that 3-day training that they had. That was 5-day training, but he'd come out and cover that section. And he would say that he would have rather kicked the door in on a group of drug lords with machine guns than walk through that door the first night he went to an AA meeting.
Yeah.
That he was more terrified of going into that room than kicking the door in on a bunch of machine gun wielding drug lords, because he just felt so exposed and so vulnerable, and he didn't feel like he had any tools to fight that or deal with that. No. But it got him sober, and that's the thing. It got him sober, and are officers, reticent to go to an AA meeting? Yes, they are. You're in a field where you're the helper. Yeah. That's your identity.
Yeah.
And when you go into an AA meeting, the only way that you're going to benefit is if you can do the first step, and that is to admit that you didn't have control over this.
Yeah, you're powerless over alcohol.
You're powerless.
Yeah,
and it's so much easier to help someone else than to help
it
yourself
is.
too.
And you know what, Eric, you make a good point there. That's one of the reasons why AA has been so successful, because at the point where you can get sober, then you can end up helping other people get sober and stay sober. But, I talked with a guy who I wanted him to go to this meeting with you guys. And he's a good guy. And he wanted to hook another guy up with me who was having a drinking problem. But I said, listen, why don't you both come to the meeting?
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is you have to truly want to get sober. You have to be willing to do it. And most people in the back of their head, they're hedging. They want an out. They want the ability to tell themselves, well, I'll figure out a way to control this. And the truth of the matter is you can't.
Yeah.
It's controlling you.
Yeah. Nah, yeah.
And so he said, I'll get back with you later, Doc. And he has to want it.
Yeah. When we started talking about doing this group, even before that, you were saying, basically what you just said.
Yeah.
I believe somebody's serious when the 90 meeting is 90 days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When people come to me and they tell me, listen, I want to get sober. If you're listening to this podcast and you say, I'm going to call Dr. Greenberg and I'm going to get him to help me get sober, the first thing I'm going to say to you is, nope, I ain't doing that. I'm not carrying that heavy. That's too heavy a load. I'm not doing that with you. And then you're going to go, well, come on, Doc. That's what they do. Come on, Doc. Man, I really want to get sober. Can you help me do it? And I said, nope. I don't think that you're being honest with me. What are you talking about, man? I haven't even said 5 words. And I said, I know the impact of alcoholism on you. I know that it's playing tricks with you right now, and you are not serious until you're serious. And if you want to prove to me that you want to get help and you really want my help, you do 90 meetings in 90 days. And if you do 90 meetings in 90 days, then I'll know you're serious. Yeah. And then I'll help you. But if you're not willing to do that, then you're not serious. And and I have people walk away. They'll tuck their heads and walk away. And you might say, well, that's kind of harsh, Doc. But the truth of the matter is this. It's on again, off again. It's 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards. And because addiction is insidious, and it has control over you. It has control. It has built into your system. In the old days, they called it demon rum, and they used to talk about a little homunculus that lives inside of you, a little demon that would make you do things and so forth. And it really is very much like that. I understand why they thought of it that way, but it's actually much more explainable at a biological level. At the same time, the thing that keeps you stuck, physiologically you're addicted, but the thing that prevents you from getting out is in fact spiritual.
No, I agree with that.
It is spiritual. And, and I talked with a guy who was an AA guy, and he was always talking about AA, and the AA has this whole spiritual thing to it. And some people find that aversive. I personally don't, because it works, and I'm very pragmatic in that regard. Mm-hmm. But he said, he was talking about AA, and I said, what's the difference between spirituality and religion? Because it seems like AA is some like form of a religion, and you guys are zealots. Because I talk with these guys, and they'd be very zealous. Yeah. And he said, Byron, there is a great distinction between religiosity and spirituality. And I said, well, break it down, pray tell. He said, religion is for people who fear hell, and spirituality is for people who have been there.
Damn. That's deep. Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's pretty deep.
And if you're out there right now and you're listening to this podcast and you're struggling with drinking and you have lost hope, if you have seen the impact on your family, if you have looked in the eyes of your child and seen shame, or your spouse, if you have had to lie about work, if you have had to have people cover for you, if you have damaged relationships, had financial problems, worried about legal consequences because of alcohol, you have an alcohol problem. Mm-hmm. And it will keep you, it will damage your self-image, and that will continue to we call in my business a recapitulation of the pathogenic process. It causes the whole process to start all over again. You just keep doing it over and over again. And I say, look, there are people who are willing to help you. There's a group right now. It meets Tuesday nights, and that there's people in there who are struggling just like you, or who have struggled through it and are still struggling on, and they're willing to help you. They're willing to help you and support you in your sobriety, but you have to want it. And like I said, some of us can be inspired, but I believe that most of the time, probably 99% of the time, with regard to alcohol, it's desperation that forces the person to change. And then you, the listener, have to be smart enough to be inspired to change instead of requiring the desperation. My prayer every day is, God, help me to be inspirable, because I know that you care enough about me to allow me desperation if that's what I need.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what changed me, was desperation.
Yeah.
And the other part was, people were trying to get me to stop drinking before I did. Luckily, my kids don't even remember any of this. They were still little. So I didn't have that look of disappointment or loss of affection through alcohol.
Or respect, yeah.
Yeah, that I did with my wife. Took a long time to rebuild that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, I'll stop. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I probably ain't going to stop. Right. I mean, so when I talk to people that want to quit drinking, and I can see right through their bullshit, Because to me, when I was alcoholic, I until I decided to get sober, and it was spiritual. It had nothing to do with, inspiration for myself. This is basically on the ground in our bedroom, on the floor in our bedroom. Yeah, and my kids and wife were in the other room, and I was like a baby in a fetal position. Nobody was in there but me. And I was like, God save me, man, please.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always believed in God, but I mean, it was a spiritual, a higher power saved me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I knew,
Yeah.
maybe I still had my doubts at the moment, not about God, but whether I could pull it off. But once I did, and I was 21 years now, actually, on January 12th, which was Monday. I mean, that's when I talk to my kids about religion and stuff all the time, about God, and particularly Jesus. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of, here we go. Right. But, when you have that gift.
Right.
When you're granted that gift of forgiveness and then of love, I mean, you want to tell it to everybody.
Right.
And I almost get in trouble with the academy sometimes talking about it, but I would tell my story at some point to the class,
right?
Because I wanted them to know that this job is going to change you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you may think, and I'm sure most of them drink anyway because it's such a prevalent thing, but but particularly in this profession, but they may be doing it for fun now, but it may turn into what happened to me.
Yeah. Well, and I tell people this, at the academy. I do a night at the academy. I do a family night at the academy. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And so I have they're getting ready to graduate, going through the basic law enforcement academy, and they're getting ready to graduate. And I have them come in the evening and bring their family members, and I talk with them about the law enforcement family and about the landmines that they're going to have to step over or around in order for them to avoid some of the loud noises in life. And I talk about alcohol because it is a very large landmine, and it's well camouflaged in the culture of high-stress profession. And it's all high-stress professions. Listen, doctors have significant problems with alcohol, especially people like surgeons. You'd be surprised. I mean, there's a surgeon I know. I tell you, man, I would not want that guy. He's retired now, but I would not have wanted him cutting on me if he wasn't. If his blood alcohol level wasn't at a level that would cause him to be arrested if he was driving. If his blood alcohol wasn't that level, I wouldn't have wanted him cutting on me because he was so. Had been drinking for so long that level of alcohol had him at a normal place.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And otherwise the scar would have looked like Frankenstein. It would have been a jagged mess. Yeah. But when he was fully on board, man, he could have cut a nice line, and he was probably quite competent. But the thing about it is all those professions, high stress professions, people will seek a remedy to the problem. And if the problem is high stress, when your nervous system is amped up, well, then a depressant such as alcohol seems to be an appropriate remedy. But there's a consequence to it, right. And the consequence is that it actually changes your chemistry. It actually changes your chemistry. Your body will end up developing an adaptation to it. Your cells will mutate. That's one of the reasons why people who drink heavily end up with throat cancer and other cancers, because the cells are mutating to accommodate an alcohol-rich environment to protect themselves. And sometimes those mutations take place, those adaptations take place, and it produces a never-ending replication of cells, which we call cancer. Yeah. And your local oncologist can explain it better than me. But people are going to end up doing what works. And hey, listen, like I said, alcohol has a predictable impact on you. Mm-hmm. And that predictability is one of the reasons why it contributes to addictive behavior.
I think I know alcoholics. I work with people who actively drink every night, but I think there's a big gray area between. I know there's tiers of alcoholism. Maybe you're drinking, like you said, a case a night, or you're drinking 6 or 10 beers a night. Right. But there's plenty of people who will say, "Oh, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink every night, but I'll drink on the weekends, or I'll drink on a Monday night watching football."
Right.
But I think it all has a domino effect. Where I know me personally, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not never been addicted to drugs, but I have addictions. Right. And it's doesn't have to be alcohol or drug related, but it's you wake up on a Monday, you go to the gym, and then Monday night football's on, have a couple beers, and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. You're hungry,
right?
And you eat more. You stay up till 2 a.m. and then you don't go to the gym tomorrow or the next day,
right? And
then you're tired the next day at work, and then that leads to getting up Wednesday not wanting to go to the gym. It's just a big domino effect where you get to the weekend, and you're like, damn, I feel terrible.
Right,
have a couple beers.
Right,
and you're not an alcoholic, but I think there's plenty of people that function on 1 or 2 days a week, or even if it's just on the weekend. Well, and it just causes this huge...
Absolutely, that cascade effect. And then what happens is you know that alcohol is an issue in your life if you are giving up things that you actually have a higher priority for. If going to the gym and your health is a high priority to you, if that is that's a higher priority. If I had to list drinking alcohol or my health, and you say, well, my health is more important to me, but you're drinking and it's consequently affecting your health, then what's happening is who's making the decision then? Are you making the decision with your priority system? Or is alcohol now somehow a virus in the system that's changing the programming that's now making the decision for you?
Right, that's true.
You see, so and people will end up, and I'm sure some of your listeners will smirk at this stuff and giggle at it. And I say this, and that is all addiction. And if there's anything that anyone takes away from this podcast, all addiction is a disease of denial. Mm-hmm. That's the disease. It's you deny. I'm going to deny. It's not really affecting me that negatively. I mean, look, everybody does it. My wife. Sometimes she gets upset a little bit with me, but you know what? She'd have been upset with me if I wasn't drinking. It's like it's denial. It's like, listen, and it's rationalization. It's denial and rationalization, and it all covers one thing: drinking behavior. It covers it. Like rationalization. When I drink, I get drunk. When I get drunk, I get tired. When I get tired, I go to bed. When I go to bed, I don't sin. And when I don't sin, basically, I'm going to go to heaven. So why do I drink? I drink to go to heaven.
Jeez.
It's like that's all just a big chain of BS that you tell yourself. Yeah. And it's really a silly example, but it is rationalization. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do it. One of the things that I wanted to just point out here, and that is, alcohol is a big issue. And it can, and I believe that some people have to hit this desperate place. And I get people who come to me because, they showed up to work and they smelled like alcohol, and, their boss said, hey, you know what, you're going to go home or we're going to drug test you right now, and that's going to end up ending your career. And, give them a pass like that. But I'll get somebody sent to me like that.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be there. They don't think they have a problem. And I'm saying, dude, you're about ready to lose your pension, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not a problem for you. And people will they will rationalize the whole thing. The truth of the matter is well, yes, that is a concern. The question is why is alcoholism more prevalent in cops? And part of it is the nature of the job, the high stress nature of the job. And because it works, people don't have to develop other skills to manage it, like communication skills, like telling people what you need, like figuring out how to keep or reserve some of your emotional, mental energy and take it home with you. Creating a good exercise program. And I know a lot of cops who, have really good, rigid exercise programs because that's the way that they decompress and get rid of their stress.
Right.
But I will tell your listeners this too, and that is, in my experience in working with cops since 1995, primarily, I have found that the most robust cops are ones that have a church family that their family belongs to. That there's a certain resiliency that they have, that this group has, when they have a family of people who care about them, who they can have conversations with, that are spiritual in nature. And religion it's a corporate expression of spiritual processes, and there's all sorts of corporations in the world, but it's a spiritual thing. And I find that those people tend to be more robust, handle stress better, and have a place that they can go with some of these things where they don't have to go to the bottle instead.
Yeah.
But that cop who I told you about, that guy who was that FBI guy, he was on his third marriage. And she was saying the same thing to him, that if he didn't get help for the drink, and she was going to leave. And then he realized maybe there's something to this. He would never have a morning drink, because a morning drink means you're an alcoholic. Now, he would drink until 2 or 3 in the morning. Get up, go in, close cases. This guy did really good work. He did good work. He closed cases, he handled things, and nobody messed with him nor challenged his alcohol consumption. Why? Because he did good work. And so he did good work as a way of buffering or keeping people away from talking about his drinking. And he would say that, he would stop at, 4:30 to go get a drink. Then it was 4:00 to go get a drink. And at 3:30, he was like, I'm really kind of cutting it, you know what I'm saying? But he would close stuff out. And then at a certain point, he realized he couldn't go any earlier because he's going through withdrawal. And so he would have a glass of wine with lunch. And that's not drinks, that's lunch. And people in Europe do it. And so it was like all this rationalization. But he would never have that morning drink because that would make you an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so, but when his third wife said that she was going to leave, he went to a meeting and he realized that, yes, he was an alcoholic. And yes, he had lost control of this. He was not controlling it. And it was controlling his life. And that it had damaged relationships and was potentially on the edge of damaging his career, like that officer who was sent to me. Desperation.
Yeah, that's right.
Drove them.
Lucky for him, he woke up.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I mean, alcoholism runs in my family. Alcohol is what killed my father. I mean, the side effects of drinking,
cirrhosis, liver disease.
Cirrhosis, and also in his case, it was more like his bones are weaker. I'm trying to think what that's called.
Right. Yeah.
I can't think of the word, but yeah.
Osteo something.
Yeah. And it's not really prevalent in men, but he had it. And it just had problems with his back and things that did over time, his body deteriorated to the fact. But the cause was alcohol. Right. But a friend of mine that died this past Christmas, actually not this past Christmas before, he dated a bunch of different people. He'd been married twice. He was a truck driver. But, every woman he would date was like, we get to know him and they would contact me either like nowadays it's Facebook Messenger or something like, does he always drink this much? Because when they first meet him, it's usually on the weekend when you go out for dates, and then they find out this is an everyday thing.
Yep.
Right.
And at one point, he had a good chance to actually twice. He had two good people that could have
had to pass that up. Huh?
Could have turned into a hell of a relationship, and they were good, good women. And they'd ask him, when you go quit drinking? He was like, never. And literally what killed him was he had that arterial bleed in his esophagus.
Right.
He bled out. But yeah, I mean, and that's everything you had just covered with your body adapts. And, it's crazy because he had 3 adult kids, 2 grandkids. And, you think about the power of alcohol, you basically gave all that up.
Right.
You gave your family up to drink.
Yeah.
And respect of his family and his son. I mean, his son got older and became an adult, and he would drive him everywhere they went because he wouldn't drink and drive. But my point being is, imagine I'm saying to my son, hey, I drink so much every weekend, I need you to drive me different places. Right. I mean, I wouldn't, if I got to ask him to drive me somewhere, it's like, man, I got to bring down a car.
Now, when you're intoxicated, you feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
But when you sober up and realize what you had to do, you feel so ashamed.
You
and
should.
Then what you do, but then what you do is you go back to drinking again because in that condition, you didn't feel that shame. And so you dummy that down, you numb that down. What alcohol is, basically, and in these high-stress professions where there's so much emotional expenditure in the job. Yeah. In law enforcement, you can't throw up every time you see something disgusting. You can't beat someone who desperately needs the consequence right now. You can't do that. You can't cry every time something is sad. You can't express these emotions. So what do? You stuff them all down. And so it's no wonder that in a profession like that, you have higher alcoholism because alcohol is emotional anesthesia, is what it is. And in this same profession, it's 14 people per 100,000 in the United States commit suicide or attempt suicide. But it's 18 to 20 out of 100,000 cops. So it's like this higher suicide rate among this profession. And because there's this intense emotional experience, a high level of hypervigilance. There's and high stress. You're constantly carrying that.
Yeah.
And what the people the public has no understanding about is that these officers somebody's got to carry it. And so you can carry it around your house at night, marching around, waiting up for a burglar to break in. You can be hyper vigilant over your family every night and realize that only you are going to protect you. Or the cop can be out there in the dark, in the rain, in the cold, and ready to respond to that 911 call to come take care of you. They're going to carry it so that you, the public, don't have to. But there is a consequence to carrying it.
Oh, I agree.
As a matter of fact, that consequence to carrying it. Right now, I'm working on a documentary, and the documentary is I'm interviewing officers that I have debriefed over the years. Good officers who have carried the burden for a significant amount of time, and the documentary is. We're at the point now where we're ready to shoot some more. We shot some more some people, but if anyone's interested in looking this up, they can go to unbreakableblue.com and take a look at our trailer. And if you'd like to make a contribution, please feel free to do so. The big expense for us is going to be when we finish getting it in the can and we have to send it to film festivals, because we'd really like the public to understand really what the cost is to wearing that star or that shield on behalf of the community, to understand its impact, to understand how it causes this level of stress, to understand why there's higher alcoholism and higher suicide rates and higher divorce rates in this profession, and why the people who are experiencing that are experiencing that actually so that you don't have to. Because these are normal human beings. Cops are normal human beings. They're not supermen, superwomen. They're normal human beings placed in extraordinary circumstances, and then they're responding to them.
Yeah,
and there's consequences to that.
So what's the name of it again?
It's called Unbreakable Blue. Unbreakable Blue.
They can look it up on YouTube, I guess?
Yeah, they can do it. They can go online, type in www.unbreakableblue.com, and it'll take you to a page. You could contributions are not made directly to me. As a matter of fact, the International Documentary Association looked at our project, and they've agreed to offer fiscal sponsorship, which doesn't mean that they give us money, but what it means is that they've said that this is a very viable and important piece of work that you're doing, and they're the International Documentary Association. So they're the biggies in Los Angeles and the film world. And if you go, you can make your contribution directly there. That becomes because they're a 501c3, that can be a tax deductible. I don't know how all of it works, but you contact them and they have the right paperwork. You make it out to the IDA, care of Unbreakable Blue. They're going to end up taking, I think, 6 cents out of every dollar or something like that. But then they'll manage the funds, and as we draw down on those funds for editing or for sending it off to the film festivals, they'll then reimburse us.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, with the higher rate of suicide, higher rate of divorce,
yes,
higher rate of alcoholism, it's all proven.
It is.
It's all true.
It is all. It's all demonstrated. You can look that up. And many of my colleagues have been doing that type of research. Although I got a really good colleague and friend and brilliant man, Dr. Mike Amott. He's just brilliant. I love listening to him at conference talk. Mike said that he doesn't believe that the suicide rate is as high as it was once purported to be. But the one thing in Mike's data, and he and I can get into an argument about it if he hears this podcast, but the one thing is that if you think about it, if 14 out of 100,000 people ages 0 to 99 commit suicide, and if you look at who in that population commits the most suicide, the younger people and the much older people, out of the 14 out of 100,000.
Right.
But who are cops? Cops are in between that.
Right.
And so if you look at the people in the middle of those numbers, their suicide rate goes down for the general population between that age group, which is the prime age group for cops who are killing themselves at a higher rate, in which case that attenuates the data and makes them much higher than the general population.
No, I agree with that.
You see how that works?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my question, all that's proven, and obviously you've spent your life
Yep.
dedicated to this and
Yes.
been doing a great job. But why isn't this the first thing when you're hired as a cop? Isn't like
Right.
you're going to be prone to this, this, and this?
Well, because
and
think
after
about
every
it. If they ran advertisements to hire police, and the advertisement was, some young guy who looks like he's in shape and in top of and then it's like, hey, listen, by the time you hit 30, you're going to look like you're 70. Your back's going to have problems. You're going to be suicidal, have alcoholism, and be on your third marriage. Please come join our force. It's great to work here. Nobody's going to end up signing up for that. Right,
Yeah.
they're not going to advertise those things. It's like firemen. Firemen have a significantly higher rate of all cancers. And it has to do with the off-gassing and so forth from the fires that they're at. And nobody hires firefighters and goes, "Hey, come join the fire service and get cancer, get testicular cancer, have your nuts fall off." Nobody does that.
Yeah. That's true.
How are you going to hire somebody for that?
yeah.
It
It just seems crazy, and that's not, once you're in it, and I mean, you can probably attest to that. Where how many times did someone come to you and say, emotionally, how do you feel? And
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, and I'm Dr. Greenberg can attest to it. It's like when I first started, it was just like that suck it up,
Right.
Or you just deal with it, and that also includes like stressful situations, like say. Like you said, maybe you get ready, you're on a SWAT team or something like that, or a CRT team, and you feel nervous or something. You would not say that to anybody else.
Yeah.
And maybe afterwards you're sitting there and maybe you saw something terrible, and the guy's like, "Yeah, just deal with it, suck it up."
Right.
But that's where the alcohol comes in, or you just compartmentalize it. But I mean, I think there's been some improvement.
Right.
Over the years, when I first started, most people who were cops had prior military.
Well, they're willing to talk about it a little bit more. I think that people like me have made it more acceptable to have conversations about it, and to say, "Hey, listen, this is like any other thing that you would do." It's like, hey, listen, you get your brakes checked on your vehicle.
Yeah.
You get your transmission fluid checked. You go get a physical, right? I mean, you have basically, once you hit 40 or 50, man, you have a doctor violate you, man.
Yeah.
And so you go get, what I'm saying? So you go get that checked because you don't want the consequences of that.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, and you don't want the consequences of your marriage falling apart or this, that, and the other, you know what? Maybe go in and sit down and talk to somebody like me, have a conversation. But I would say this: if you're a cop out there and you're listening, be conscientious when you select the person that you're going to go talk to. Not because my colleagues who are not police psychologists are somehow, a part of the dark force. But here's the thing, and that is they don't understand the culture in which you live.
Right.
And so they can tend to over-pathologize some of the stuff that you experience on a normal day-to-day basis because, you're responding normally to abnormal circumstances. And those circumstances might be very disturbing to the therapist that you talk to if they don't understand the culture. And they will not understand that it is a normal response to this abnormal circumstance because they don't typically have people come in and do this.
Yeah, and you know that too. I mean, his wife's a nurse, and without going into any stories or details, but the way nurses talk, the way firefighters talk, soldiers, police, I mean, they see all this crazy stuff and they make light of it in a certain way,
right?
So, and particularly in today's world of anti-police, all this kind of stuff.
Well, and
you say that in front of somebody that's not in the profession, you're like, you can't say that, or all of a sudden you're canceled,
right? Well, and that's just it, and that is
that's a whole other set of pressures.
Yeah, my wife tells me that I need to stop talking like a cop because it's people see it as insensitive, and you're supposed to be in a profession where you're being sensitive. And I listen, mea culpa. I do that sometimes. I actually was attracted to law enforcement and fire service because of the humor, because it's
Yeah.
dark humor, and
It's fun,
somehow that hits my funny bone. I don't know, maybe I need to talk to somebody, but somehow it hits my funny bone in a way. And part of it has to do with this. And it's kind of like, the Greeks, man. The Greeks, they had two types of plays, man. They had comedies and they had tragedies. And what's really interesting about these Greeks is their comedies were tragic.
Right.
And their tragedies were hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it spoke to the fact that when things are terrible, if you can find a way to laugh about it, it takes some of the stress out of you and allows you to refocus. Some of the things cops have said to me I would never have repeated what they said to me about things that were terribly tragic. They were hilarious because they were so bizarre. Things were so surreal, so strange, so abnormal, and their comments were hilarious, allowed us to laugh about it, and then to get into a place where emotionally we could reset, and then see that yes, this was a very, very strange thing that happened. And they're not being cruel or insensitive, but it does create a little bit of distance between you and the tragic event so that you can reset yourself and go back into it to solve the problem, because that's what you're there for.
Right. Yeah. Because you can't see that every single day and not find a way to deal with it.
No,
and
you got to.
And the other part is aside from the alcoholism and suicide, I don't have the stats, but heart attacks. Yes. Obesity, diabetes, all these things. I mean, it's certainly higher than most citizens.
Well, because when people experience stress, that stress response causes a release of what happens is it's the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. And then what happens is the hypothalamus releases adrenocorticotropin releasing factor, which causes adrenocorticotropin, I believe, which causes the adrenaline to go. And then when that happens, you end up releasing cortisol into your system, and there's a whole cascade of neurochemistry, neuroendocrine process that happens. And part of it has to do with the histaminergic process, which causes swelling. It's designed to make the blood going out into the body in anticipation of an injury so that it could repair damage or cause clots. It's basically trying to prepare for injury. Right. And when cops have high levels of stress, then what happens is they're subject to having this, these kind of steroids in your body basically can cause you to hold on to weight, to add fat in order to prepare for, having to hold up and recoup from injury. And your body's trying to protect you. As far as drinking is concerned, it's an interesting thing about alcohol. Alcohol sugar does not get absorbed by the body and used as energy. That's why you have alcohol, sugar, and candies for diabetics, because the alcohol in the sugar is not absorbed by the body, but the body uses the same chemistry that it uses to break sugars down to get rid of alcohol. And so since the body uses the same chemistry that you would use to take a sugar in your body and turn it into energy,
right?
There's none left for you to break down sugar to give you energy once you've been drinking. Yeah. But the chemistry that is used in your body to take sugar and turn it into fat is still available. So what your body does is you do not get fat from drinking alcohol, just straight alcohol. With beer, there's the alcohol in the beer, but there's also carbs in the beer. Yeah. What the body does is it takes the carbs in the beer or in the sandwich that you ate with the beer or the pizza. It takes the carbs in that, turns that into fat because it cannot use it as energy right now because those chemicals are allocated to getting rid of alcohol because the body sees it as poison. That's why people gain weight. Now, crazy. In your dad's case, he must have drank very heavily.
Yeah, he did.
And what happened is the body then did not feel hunger, but it couldn't use the alcohol calories to make the body work. So it started to draw on the bones and the teeth and the fat and the muscle to give it energy to make the heart work and the brain work.
Jeez, it's crazy.
And so it basically causes a person to shrivel up. You'll see a person who just drinks straight vodka. They can drink 20,000 calories in vodka and shrivel up and die because the body's not using that in any way to create fat or to run the machinery. It's borrowing from the body. Basically, you're cannibalizing yourself.
Just trying to survive.
Just trying to survive. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So, like your age group, and you'll be 30 this year.
I will.
Oh.
Yeah.
A couple years,
Yeah,
or a couple months.
Yeah, my son turns 30 here on the 18th.
Wow.
Yeah, same age.
It'll be in March.
Yeah.
But do you feel like people are drinking as much or drinking? I don't mean your college days, but
Yeah, no, I mean, in college it was nonstop. I mean, but I mean, it depends on who you hang out with and whether you're friends or real friends or not. And
Right.
I've been able to really think about it because, I mean, we've gone years and years. My wife Frankie and I were like, oh, we'll just only drink on the weekends. We're not going to drink on the weekdays. And things come up. And last night we went to Topgolf and had a couple beers. And it was just like,
Right.
on Saturday, I was like, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to drink on the weekdays. And here we are. But
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I have noticed though, it's more and more hangouts. It's like everyone just has a couple beers. And it's more about just getting together because it's more seldom now. I mean, it's just people are having kids. People are busy with jobs. And it's
growing up.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's more of a getting older thing or if it's more talked about. And
Well, I think when you get a little bit
People are-
older, you start to recognize, you start to do a little bit more of a risk assessment. It's like, things are, it's like, what, can I afford to crash my car this evening? I mean, like, I don't have the money to fix that. And, and I won't be able to get to work and that'll be really bad. And then the kids are going to be starving and I won't have diapers. It's like you start thinking about that, the consequences of it. And that is actually called adulting. That's what it's called. And so that becomes a part of it. But when if you make drinking a part of the culture of your family, if you do that as a part of, creating, that's a part of our system, that will have consequences.
Yeah.
And you know what? You might be really good and easy with 1 or 2 beers, right?
Yep.
And be good. But when your kid grows up, maybe that kid got the special combination of genes, maybe, maybe your wife was, 1/18th American Indian and, you're a quarter, maybe you're a quarter Irish. But all those genes end up in that kid.
yeah,
And that kid who is learning to practice to drink with you doesn't have the chemistry to fight it off.
Yeah.
yeah,
And now it's a lifestyle issue and they have the genes for it too.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the genes to become alcoholic, but if you have the genes for it, man, it just is brutal trying to get that person sober. It's brutal. Their body is just jonesing for it.
So, so it's true that like Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, he says that the person you're talking about who has the predisposition or whatever, that even alcohol has a different effect on them.
Yes.
It's like more like a cocaine effect versus just somebody having a drink.
Yeah, you think of it as like there's people who have peanut allergies. They'll die if they eat peanuts.
Right.
It's like, and so think about those people, and you don't have to have those genes to become alcoholic.
Right.
But if you have those genes, it's like you have an allergic reaction to alcohol that makes you want it. And people typically know that they have those genes when they can remember the first time they had alcohol and they realized that they had discovered something awesome. If you have that experience, I remember the first drink I had and I thought, holy moly, where has this been? Yeah. Well, if you have that physiological experience, 99% chance, I don't know, I'm making up that number, but 9 out of 10 psychologists make up numbers. Anyway, if you do that, have that response, well, that means you probably have the genes for it, and you would be best to put it down and never touch it again.
Yeah. I wish I'd known that back then. That's the response I had.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, I'd spend every waking minute, even in high school, planning for the weekend. What do we got to do to get beer?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an obsession.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I didn't think about it like that back then.
Yeah.
and it's
That's
so
pretty
accepted
interesting.
everywhere.
Well, I mean,
that's-
the reason I was asking was they say that like the number of people drinking, young people, and I can, even though you'll be 30, you're still young, has actually been decreasing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's for because of the legalization of marijuana or what, but I thought
I think a lot of it has to do with.
I thought that was pretty interesting though.
Yeah.
I was just curious what you thought.
No, I do know a lot of people who prefer smoking over drinking.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have that hangover and you have more control of yourself. I guess if you're used to smoking weed and I mean, for me, I when I do drink heavy, it's usually just I'm with friends and it gets going and it's harder to stop than it is to.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting though? It is. It's harder to stop than it is to get going. That should tell you something.
Yep.
The other thing too is if you'd have a problem like nursing one beer throughout a whole party. In other words, if you only have fun when you're not trying to control your drinking, when it rolls like that, that's one of the signs. That's one of the diagnostic tools that we use to say, hey, there's alcoholism or alcoholic tendencies in this person.
Yeah.
Is when you control it, it's not fun. When you don't control it, it's fun, which means it's in control. And then once you set that system up, it just becomes harder and harder, and your brain starts to come up with all sorts of rationalizations and rubrics and tricks and outs for yourself. It's
what's fun. I mean, you could sit at home on watching a game or eat dinner and have one Coke or 2 Diet Cokes for dinner.
Yeah.
But when you go out drinking, you're 4 or 5 beers deep.
Right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't drink 4 or 5
Cokes. Right.
With your steak.
Right. Why wouldn't you do that? Isn't that an interesting observation? I never really thought about that. That's a very interesting observation. And I think that you're right about that. It tells you that it's talking to you.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, when I was
and
drinking,
it's more expensive, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, when I was drinking, the idea of somebody say, "Hey, we're gonna have a beer or something." If somebody just offered me one beer and that was it, I would rather not even have drink.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Exactly. I want that. The term, the word.
I mean, I'm dead serious about that.
What's funny, I was convinced at one point this was when we were in college and we were drinking a lot. I would have one beer, and if I only had one beer, I would get a massive headache within an hour.
Interesting.
And
the next beer is the thing that's designed to hammer down the headache.
Yeah, and then
the one after
I was convinced if I had 2 or 3 beers, I would never get a headache.
Right.
But now I'd have one the next day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the point you were making, but I think it's very true. But yeah,
the word alcohol is actually an Arabic word. Alcohol, and so we say wine and what? Wine and spirits, right? It's very interesting. That's what alcohol means. It's a spirit. And so if it's kind of driving you, if it's kind of like, hey, have another, it's like that little meme where we have a bottle of bourbon and it's like, it's talking to you and it says, tell them how you really feel. Yeah. It's like, once you get down to this level, you do and you say things. Yeah. I mean, I realized, I was a fraternity guy too. Mm-hmm. And, but I started working for the United Methodist Family Services in Richmond, and I was working the evenings. Mm. And so a lot of those kids who came in there had alcohol problems. And so I would go to the party because, the fraternity party's on the weekend, but had to go to work. So I didn't drink at all. Hmm. So I'd go to the party, but I'd have to be at work at like 11. I work 11 to 7.
Damn.
And so now I'm at a party at 11. By 11, man, everybody's pretty much on their way, man. They're past go for sure.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that I saw my fraternity brothers doing and realized, man, I was doing that. Yep. When I saw that sober, it kind of gave me a different idea. It's like some of the things people were saying to each other. I'm like, well, that was ugly.
Yeah.
That was rude. That was disrespectful.
Yep.
And it gave me the realization that this was causing people to act in ways that I wouldn't want to be seen acting that way.
Definitely. Yeah. Particularly nowadays, when everybody has a phone camera or whatever.
Right.
So, just off to my head before we move to the next thing is another thing cops do is like they build that social isolation. Mm-hmm. So around all the cops, they thought they can relax.
Right.
But that isolation, you get home, you're tired, you're exhausted from that roller coaster, but you kind of separate yourself from the public and people that aren't cops because you may be saying things that they're not going to understand or the way you say it. But I think that contributes later in life to like retired cops. I wonder what the numbers are for retired cops or who are alcoholics, suicide, depression, and all that.
Well, you and I both know some.
Yeah. Well, I know them personally, but I know.
Yeah. And I know some of those guys that you know, and I've known some of those guys that you know that have drank themselves to death.
Oh, me too.
I've known them. The last about 5 years post retirement. That they shrivel up. They try and stay busy, go get a security job, watch TV. It's like, but the truth of the matter is they, because you said it earlier, Eric, you said, you compartmentalize. You keep stuffing that stuff in that place that you don't deal with those emotions because you don't have time to deal with it at the scene. And then by the time you clear up from that scene, you got another call that you have to go to. And you do 12 hours of that.
Yep.
And in the Berg, man, you guys are running 13 calls in a shift. I mean, you guys are busy.
Yep.
And these aren't pretty calls.
Yep.
This is going to a murder scene. This is going to a rape. This is going to somebody who just got run over by a car. This is going to somebody who backed over a baby. And you're going to those calls, call after call, arguments, fights, domestics, etc., all day long. And then you come home. Mm-hmm. You're not going to pull that stuff out and work through it with your wife. No. And so you do 25 years of that.
Yep.
That's a lot of crap stored in a box, And I'll tell your readers a little trick here, and that is, you talk about the spiritual component to it. What that does is it creates anxiety because it's all a bunch of unfinished business, and so there's like this anxiety. It's like this nagging stuff that just is unresolved. I can't make sense out of it, and the brain doesn't like to do that. The brain is a meaning-making organ, and when it can't make meaning out of stuff, it chews on it and it irritates you.
Yeah.
And so you've got 25 years of all that crap.
Yeah.
And so I tell people at the academy, and I'll tell your listeners this, here's the trick that I would end up saying, especially if you're getting into this profession from jump. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with... I think it's a biblical verse. I want to say it's Philippians. But what happens is the Apostle Paul says, don't worry about anything. And I thought, well, that's kind of some cheap advice.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously never had an IRS audit. And so, what's going on with that? But if you read just a couple of sentences later, he tells you how not to worry. He says these words. He says, whatsoever is good, whatsoever is beautiful, whatsoever is uplifting and of good report, think on these things. Now, when I first read that and understood that, it was very profound, and I realized that coincides with everything I know in cognitive behavioral therapy. It absolutely is supported by the science that I have. And so, hey, truth is truth, whether you find it in Philippians or you find it in, Albert Ellis's book on cognitive behavioral therapy, it's truth. Here's the thing, though. I realized, and what scared me for my law enforcement friends is, you're mandated in your profession, whatsoever is broken, whatsoever is murderous, whatsoever is rapey, whatsoever is violent, whatsoever is a violation. Think on these things and write a very detailed report because you might have to testify.
Right.
You're told, mandated in your profession to do the exact opposite of what Paul is saying to do, to not worry.
Yeah.
And so what I tell young people at the academy is this. Your life depends on you making sure that you do a very good threat analysis of what's around you and that you stay frosty. Fine. Identify what's a threat. Look at the ugly. Write your report. But when you see one thing ugly, stop for a second when you're safe, look around you, and find two beautiful things around you because they're there.
Yeah.
If you do that, and you do it historically throughout your career, you find two beautiful things for every one bad thing you see, then by the end of your career, you will have twice as many good memories as you do bad memories, and you will have accomplished what Paul said. You see? Yeah. Now, I do this little trick at the academy. I go into the academy. I don't know if you ever saw me do it, Eric. I walk in and I like to do it with detectives. In a room full of detectives, if I do teaching adult learners, I typically do it too. But I go in and I say, hey, how many of you are wearing a watch? And a lot of them wear a watch still. And so I say, turn it over so you can't tell me what time it is. And they turn it over obediently. And then I say, okay, how many times a day do you look at that watch? They say 100 times a day. I say, particularly around 5 o'clock, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I said, now what I want you to do is I want you to draw the face of that watch. And if you don't have a watch, I want you to draw the face of a penny. Because I know that you've seen lots of those. You work in law enforcement. That's all you make.
Yeah.
And so here's the deal. Nobody can draw their watch.
Wow.
Nobody can. And I go around the room looking at the watches that they've drawn and make fun of them because they miss so much. And then I tell them, I say, look, can you imagine me having you in a court of law? You're under cross-examination. And I say, Detective Lieberman, you've said by your own admission, I read in your admission here, that you look at that watch 100 times a day, and yet you don't know whether it has Roman numerals on it or regular dashes. By your own admission, you look at it 100 times a day. Now, you saw my client one time coming out of a liquor store, and you can say with clarity in your report, he was running southwest on 3rd Street, carrying a bottle of stolen Jack Black in his left hand, a 1911 pistol, 45 pistol in his right hand. He was wearing blue jeans. He was wearing a cowboy hat turned backwards and a Jesus Saves t-shirt. You saw all that one time, that detail, but you look at your watch 100 times a day and don't know whether it has Roman numerals on it? I don't think so. No further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The reason that people don't see and know what that watch looks like is because they're not looking at it to see what it looks like. They're looking at it to see what time it is. And when you're in this profession, all you're looking at is you're looking at the ugliness in the world and the things that can hurt you. That's all you're looking for because you have a minimum amount of attention, and so you're just looking for the bad. And you're looking right past all of the good.
Wow.
You have to readjust your sight, see the good, and remember that intentionally too, just like you would remember your watch's face intentionally if you looked for that purpose.
Yeah.
If you do that, your life will be better. Your retirement will be
More enjoyable.
Will be more enjoyable, and your family life will be much more full.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty deep. Yeah.
I know. I kind of go. There's some shower thoughts I had one time. I was sitting there thinking, like, you have these millionaires and people, musicians who make millions and live the best life, and they have anything they could possibly want, and they're the ones committing suicide and addicted to drugs. And I was talking to Frankie one day because, after her dad's passing and things, was just talking about goods and bads in life and why do I feel this way and why do all these things happen? If there is a God, why is there cancer? Why is there poverty? But I was thinking one day, I was like, without terrible things in life, there is no, to feel happy.
Yes.
You have to have bad things in life.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you always felt happy all the time, there's nothing else to go up.
Yeah, you'd be satiated.
You reach that peak. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with what you were talking about, especially with law enforcement and people who see bad things every single day, it's almost easier for them to feel better and happy because they see so much bad things. It's like one little thing can make them like, oh man, that's right. Now I'm back to normal again. Right. And
because
alcohol,
by contrast, yes,
and
alcohol,
that one sip, even though it's a bad thing in most people's eyes, to them that's
huge contrast.
A little light, and it's harder for them to really, like you said, seeing a beautiful thing versus seeing a horrible thing. It's
funny that you mentioned that too, Eric, and I think again that's very, very insightful because the way that your nervous system is actually designed is neurons either fire, they're off, or they're on. When they're on, that's in contrast to off. When they're off, that's in contrast to on. So you sit in that seat long enough and you don't move, and you will stop feeling your rump in the seat. The hat on your head, you stop feeling, but when you take it off, it feels like something's there because you're experiencing contrast. And the way that our nervous systems are set up as human beings is everything is experienced in contrast to something else. How can you know light if you don't know darkness? How can you know loud if you don't know soft? It's all in contrast, and that's the way we experience life. And so I think that officers who work hard. They tend to play hard in contrast.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said, Eric, and that is, I'm feeling all these negative stuff. That one drink feels so good compared to all of the crap that I had to eat today at work.
Yep.
And so it's by contrast, it makes it much more addictive. And all of the things that are pleasure things become much more addictive to the people who are having this really bad experience. It's one of the reasons why people who are really, really dark when they come to the light tend to be the brightest lights.
Yeah.
And the people who are really, really bright lights, like some of your televangelists, they become very, very dark when they become dark.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought it was funny. We did a really late honeymoon in October. We went to Barbados.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was 7 days. But I was thinking about this before, where you look forward to a trip or look forward to the weekend, and once the weekend gets there, there's a whole nother level of stress. Right. I got to get this done. I get this done. And Frankie and I, we were able to relax. It was the first time being there. It was just soaking everything in. But it was funny to watch. And the regulars, like probably retired folks who've been there multiple times, how stressed and anxious they were in paradise.
Right.
It's like you're at the peak of probably what you've been looking forward to the past 6 months.
Right.
And you're there and you're just as stressed as you were at work trying to get to Barbados or whatever. And it's just, I don't know, it's just funny. It was funny to me to see. Well, not funny, but it's just wild to see people there,
frantic.
But when you're supposed to be like, I got to get this reservation, or can I see a manager? This food,
right?
But it's like, dude, you're in.
Right, relax already.
Yeah.
But people in law enforcement have a hard time relaxing.
Yeah,
and I can tell you that when once you get your nervous system all jacked up, it really becomes very difficult to downregulate it. And that's why alcohol is a big thing. Gambling is another issue. Sex is another issue. It's why there's infidelity. All those things that make you feel good in contrast to the bad feelings that you have. And one of the primary thoughts, and I tell officers this all the time, when you hear these words inside of your head, don't I deserve?
Right.
Run.
Yeah.
Run away. Run away. Don't I deserve to feel good? Don't I deserve a little bit of this? Don't I deserve? Run away. Get away from that. Once you say that in your head, you are arguing for something you know is not good. Yeah. You're arguing for it, and you're trying to justify it. Get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. It's going to end up being a disaster. Run. There's a proverb that says, the wise man flees from temptation.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's something bigger.
Yeah, exactly. There is something bigger. There's something more important. And you're right. Those people who feel like who may feel, but who have, in our estimation, have reached the pinnacle. They're financially stable. They're famous. These are the people offering themselves. Viktor Frankl, who spent a significant chunk of his life in a concentration camp.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. I love that book. He said that when men lack purpose in life, they always turn to pleasure.
That's why you see all these guys
with
all the money.
Yeah. Where do you go from there? There's no contrast now.
Yeah.
No purpose.
There's no purpose. And, so some of them do things like, we'll, save the whales, or, hug trees, or, whatever. Some of those people who, we're going to become social warriors and so forth like that. They're trying to find meaning and connectedness. And, but, the truth of the matter is, even then, they'll still trying to find pleasure in that.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really finish what I was saying.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, not. I got off track myself, but it was like it's easier to look forward to things, and once you're in the moment, it's kind of like you're let down because you're like you had all this anticipation, and then you have these same anxieties. So that's what I try to do, is just kind of really appreciate the small things in life. And I mean, we just bought a house, and we're very fortunate to have 2 families that support us, and we know that because we have friends that aren't as fortunate. But I mean, we both have our own things where we're very happy just being at home, and I have a little workshop and just work on stuff. I mean, it's just really easy to get distracted by all these other. I mean, they're all just distractions.
They are distractions.
But just to sit down, and I mean, even today at work, I was driving around. I was like, man, I get to just drive around and fix people's stuff. I mean, crawl spaces suck sometimes, but I get to listen to music and just chill. And it's just, I don't know, it's hard to relax, but
yeah. I mean, yeah. That was a lifetime of hearing that too, though.
Oh, yeah, from you.
Yeah. He knows knows the beauty in the smallest things.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not taking him credit for it, but I am,
But I think
if I had stayed the same course, I'm not saying you wouldn't have thought the same thing, but I think that having a father who was humbled by life, plus I knew the most important thing was my kids and family.
Right. But see, and what you just said there, I think is so critical, Eric, that you got to see your father, yes, who was humbled by circumstances. And yet what you saw your dad do is work through the challenge of to embrace his humility, and then to adjust and correct his course. And I told somebody, an officer the other day who was insinuating that, maybe life would be better, the planet Earth would be better without him. And I said to him this, I said, statistically, it's proven that if you kill yourself, your child has a 33% increase in their risk of killing themselves. That's the legacy that you leave. Because when they reach the limits of their resources, when there is no evident solution to life's problems, and they're going to have that many times in their life, they'll always be able to pull out what dad did or what mom did and say, I'll just do what dad did when he reached the limits of his resources. And see what you did. And I told this officer, I said, so what you will effectively do is give your child that as their tool. And is that what the legacy that you want to live? Is that the gift you want to give them going out? And see what I said to them, I said, what you can give your child is you can work through the issue and you can give your child the understanding that when times get tough, when life beats the shit out of you, that you can get up like dad did. And you'll be able to give your kid that level of hope and say, you know what, I'm made of the same stuff. And if you're made of the same stuff as that guy, you're made of good stuff. And so that is the key. You can give your kid that. And that to me is a great gift.
Yeah. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes, but I say, judge me by my kids and both my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love about it. I remember one time, and I never got to wrap this up, but I was called, and I won't say the guy's name, but he was a new captain in investigations. And that's back when the total quality management was kicking off. You remember that kind of stuff? At least that mindset. I'm not saying it's wrong, but he called. He knew each of us. Obviously, he would call us and say, what are your goals, long term or short term? Short term, I had
stay alive.
Yeah, stay alive, or I think I was doing child sex crimes. I was like, do this and do that, and get this training. What about long term? Long term, I said, well, long term, I want to be fortunate to grow old. Because I had kids already. Had my kids grow old. Hopefully they'll live around me, and I can see them every day and see my grandkids. And he went off. That ain't a goal. I'm talking about the PD. I said this is a serious job, but my lifetime goal is what I just said. Have my kids live close by. I can see them every day. Where we're friends. We can hang out. And I was pretty young back then.
That was
crazy.
But not everybody sees that as the high value item.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I was, don't get me wrong, I was probably always be a knucklehead, but that was what I meant. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, I've done some knucklehead shit.
Right. Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, I mean, that was the goal. I'm sitting here with my son doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And he lives 10 minutes away. My daughter lives 5 minutes away.
Nice.
And I got a grandson and a, great, son-in-law and daughter-in-law. It's like, this is like paradise, dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And just think about it, man. Just think about that, though. And that is, what if the goal was different? What if the goal was, well, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be a chief of a town. In other words, you're saying, like,
I laugh at that shit because that thought.
I know. You'd never quit drinking, would you?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm saying is, I mean, I don't. And this is after I had quit drinking, so I think that realization, and plus I didn't have that as a kid. I mean, I had close parents, but not like the same kind of level.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, well, I'm saying all that to say is, I think particularly in law enforcement, these guys get out of this thing and. I know some guys that recently retired and they're like, I'm going to get a security job. I'm going to do this and that. I'm like, try to find something away from this.
Right.
Make yourself do something different.
I tell them at the academy when they get in the academy, I say, first and foremost, man, hold on to your non-law enforcement friends. That'll be a big challenge to do because they're not going to see the world the way that you see it. And it's important to have people who care about you to actually help you stay in touch with the culture that you're stepping away from, which is the culture of the general pop.
Yeah.
And because you're going to end up being, cultivated into something that, it's once you get into this, you can't see the world differently, the same way that you did before. You can't do it. And so that's the big challenge. Yeah. I will say this, and I know we're running out of time, and I'd like to just, get a plug also in for all those people out there who are in law enforcement or emergency services who might listen to this podcast now or in the future. One of the things that I think is is a tremendous help to departments is peer support. Is developing a good peer support program, training officers not to diagnose alcohol abuse, but to assess whether or not a person might be having some problems and struggling, and then to empower your peer support team through policies and so forth to be able to reach out and provide that support proactively as well as reactively, and do so in a benevolent way. Because, listen, when management comes to you and go, hey, man, I think you got a drinking problem, you immediately go, oh, is my job in jeopardy? Yep. And, and this and the other, and you feel like change is being forced upon you. And I can tell you this with absolute authority. Change when done by us can be exciting and exhilarating, but change when done to us is very frustrating.
Yeah.
And so when management comes to you and says, hey, you've got a problem, you better fix it, you hear you're a problem, but when you have a colleague come to you and go, hey, man, Eric, look, man, I love you, man, and I got mad respect for you, but listen, I think this is killing you, brother, and it's killing me to watch it kill you like this. That is a different level of support.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've just find that peer support becomes a critical tool in any department's wellness, and I encourage any and everybody out there who is listening to get involved in peer support if they can, or to support their local peer support team.
Yeah, and you're not going to believe this. Prior recruit called me today about something she's working on, like a suicide walk. I won't say the age you don't all that. Right. And then the first thing I said to her, do you guys have a peer support program?
Nice.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And at first she didn't know. I said, well, they do this and they do that. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, we do have one.
Okay.
Not that she was suicidal.
Right.
But, somebody in the department had committed suicide, somebody who had retired, and the idea hit her. Yeah. This is pretty funny that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because that happened to me today.
Yeah,
I still talk to a lot of old recruits and old cops and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to plug the the meeting we have. So you call the double blind or double secret probation. What's it called?
Yeah, that was from Animal House.
Yeah.
It's a doubly closed AA meeting. It's doubly closed.
So the group meets. It's a small group, but the people in it.
Don't say where. Just
no, I'm not gonna say where. Yeah. So it's about at this point about 6 people, but and depends on who can make it at whatever day. But the bottom line is it's totally anonymous. It's all law enforcement, and the majority of people, not all of them, not me, but because I've been to regular AA, said that they wouldn't come to a meeting unless it was all cops.
Yeah,
because they're not going to open up in front of anybody else. They're worried about all this other stuff. But we're trying to grow the program. You can contact me on Facebook Messenger or even Dr. Greenberg. Yep. But we want you to come if you're on the fence about it. There's no judgment. It's all open. It's all love. And if you can make that step from alcoholism to sobriety, it will be that distance between dark and light.
It will.
I mean, yeah, and it's nothing else is more important.
Yeah. Yeah, you can reach me at Greenberg, that's BGreenberg at COPDR.com. That's Greenberg at copdoctor.com.
And we'll put that in the description too,
Sure.
so you can.
You can just find me on Facebook. And we have On the Hill Podcast Facebook page as well. And matter of fact, somebody reached out to me through Facebook and wants to know if we can do like a Zoom, bring them in on Zoom.
Right, yeah.
And we weren't able to do it this last meeting, but some of that's going to have to do with getting access to the internet there at the church. And
Right.
I don't have the password and all that. So I know the guy had messaged me or put something on Facebook, like a big question mark. But if he is listening, we want you to participate. But it's going to take some logistical stuff we got to do first.
Right. And I think, quite honestly, it's like people call me, they come in, see me at my office sometimes, because there's very few police psychologists in the United States, and even, very few here in Virginia. And so when people from the other side of the state are looking for something, and if I can help, what I say is, look, here's the deal. I know it may be a distance to my office. The first meeting always needs to be in my office. And then everything after that can be telemedicine. And so what I would suggest to your people is come to at least one in person, meet the people at this doubly closed AA meeting. And then, if you set up a pod, the Zoom meeting, and have them join that way, have them join after their first meeting, joining in person.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's the answer to that question. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I think they should come in person.
Yeah.
And a person doesn't live like states away. It lives in this area. So I think, and the other thing is going to do is, if you come in person, you may want to always come back in person.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not against, the Zoom stuff, but
It's a comfortable environment.
Yeah.
And it is private. It is.
yeah, we've taken steps to make sure that even where you enter the building, it's totally anonymous.
Yeah.
You don't have to come through the front door. We have a back door open. You can come in.
Yep.
The classroom's private. The church has been wonderful about doing that. All the blinds are closed. And I mean, what I'm saying is you could come in and out there and nobody even know you were there.
and it's a very comfortable room.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's pretty, And that church, I mean, we'll talk about it one day. I guess if this goes on, but I mean, if you wonder about the good nature of people, nobody in the meeting goes to that church.
Yeah.
And this church, through Dr. Greenberg and the pastor there, he set it up, you and the pastor, and the person that accommodates it.
All support law enforcement.
Yeah, but if you wonder, what different kinds of people, and some churches are different than others, but the welcome we have received and the accommodations people have made for us to be there, I mean, it's almost unbelievable. It really is.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
It's real sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost incredible, really. Because I'll just say this: one night the door was broke, we couldn't get in. A pastor came from his house right down the road. I mean, and let us in. Not the main pastor, but I mean, because I don't know where he lives, but this guy came and was in like 8 minutes was there and let us in.
Nice.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a hell of a community.
Didn't tell you to go some other time.
Yeah, I'm sorry we can't get there. You're out of luck. In
Right.
fact, we had a new guy coming, and I was like, man, it's just a shame that his first night, and we can't get in there because the door is broke.
Yeah.
The code wouldn't work. But before we end, the last question. So we talked about good and bad, dark and light. So if you believe in God, do you believe in Satan? I mean, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying your personal belief.
Yeah.
But see, I personally believe that these entities are real.
Yeah. No, I do. I believe that there's a fallen angel, and I think that there's, if you're a Bible believing person, you recognize that he was an angel that was perfect, was the covering cherubim, until pride was found in him. He thought that he should be like the Most High.
Yeah.
That he was worthy of worship.
Right.
And in the end, that pride got him and 1/3 of the hosts of heaven cast out.
Yeah.
And so those entities, they can't attack God. They got cast out. Obviously, they don't win. But what they can do is they can attack the ones that God loves.
Yeah.
And and that's just a manipulation that they're trying to do, and we happen to be that. I would encourage anybody to go, and maybe we can talk about this sometime, is to go and read the book of Job. It's very interesting, very interesting story there, and especially that first part where it says that there's a meeting in heaven, and Lucifer shows up, and God, who knows everything, asks him what he's doing there. So God already knows.
Wow.
And he says, I'm here representing Earth. And then read the rest of the story. And I would end up submitting this too, and that is for those of you who, and I'm just an amateur Bible scholar, I'm just a psychologist, what do I know? But what it says is if he's there at this meeting and he's representing Earth, who do the other entities there represent? Maybe there's other planets. I don't know. It's just kind of
pretty
weird.
interesting.
Yeah. But what he says is, he's representing Earth, and the Almighty says, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And then he says, "Yeah, but if you give him everything, and if you take everything from him, he'll curse you to your face."
That's what he did, yeah.
Yeah, but he did.
I mean, Job didn't, but God took everything from him.
No,
yeah.
but see, that's just it. God didn't. God, see, when he said, if you take it from him, he was telling everybody else at the table that God would take something from you. He was trying to smear God's character in front of them by just saying that. Then what did God say? He said, okay, you can take it from him, but don't touch his body. Yeah. Go read the story. It's a very interesting because there's all this little stuff that is going on there.
But at the end, he doesn't curse God.
No, he doesn't.
Even though his friends told him.
Yeah, even though his friends told him to do it. Yeah,
he didn't do it.
And in the end, he didn't do it. But you know what the Almighty said to Job, to his friends. He speaks to his friends. Again, read the story. He says, you guys said what was wrong about me. He said, but I'm going to spare you because Job prayed for you.
Wow,
that dude prayed for you. So know this. There's some of us who are praying for you, and I know my family prays for law enforcement friends every night. So
yeah. That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
What do you think, dude? Anything else?
No. It's a pleasure having you on again.
No, my great pleasure. I appreciate it. It was kind of an interesting twist, huh? Where we meandered in the topic, but very, very relevant stuff.
Well, I think it's more relevant. I mean, I think people. I just want to say this too in reference to this last topic. I think people are more scared of Satan or Lucifer than they are of God. Like they're scared to go to hell. It's like you might want to be a little more afraid of God.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Not that you need to be afraid of him, but you need to respect him and know that there's a righteous path. And it's narrow and few people find it, but it's for everybody.
Right. Yeah. And
I just want to put that out there.
No, I appreciate that, and I think this, and that is he's the greatest trick that the devil ever played was to convince us that he didn't exist.
Well, he exists.
Yeah. And so there's dark forces, but I don't fret them because I'm going to stay in the light.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll put all your links down below in the description so people can find the website and the documentary, and we'll post this on YouTube so you guys can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast. Like I said, it'll be on YouTube as usual. Right. But until next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Next time you come back, we'll talk about the book of Job.
Yeah, let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Peace.
Thank you for listening to On the Hill. Like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. See ya.